We have a saying within our industry that without us, your doctor is just guessing. As a medical technologist, you can do both diagnostic and post-mortem. I need to take this long walk to the mortuary, go open up, go write it in the book, go open the fridge, move the other ones, and put this one, the new one, in there. And then you won't believe, after that, I close up and I went to have tea. It was tea time.
I've heard that some of the seniors in your industries or related industries push these juniors or young guys to use the laminar floors and all those other potentially cancer-causing machines or rays. How AI could enhance medical technology.
There are labs that are fully automated. So you walk into a lab, you don't find a person.
What will it take me to set up my own lab when it comes to money, to the talent, and as well as maybe any other license requirements? A kid who used to struggle with maths and science, but now is one of the elites in the histopathological techniques as a medical technologist. You know, those words, at least now I got a very big word to flex with. Great. What's happening, everybody? Here's another episode with your favorite Mr. Cater. In today's episode, we're going to be chatting with EP9. That's the name we call EP here, but I'll try to just use EP more so that you guys can relate. But in today's chat, we're going to be talking about with the medical technologist. I mean, some of the words when they said to me, they sounded so big. So instead of me trying to explain what I don't understand, I should just let maybe the specialist take care of it. If you could, you believe it, just introduce yourself and then what you do for a living.
Okay, thank you, Andy, for having me. I don't know if I should call you, but as you say, we're the names that we are used to calling each other. So as Andy said, my name is EP9. I am a medical technologist who specializes in histopathological techniques. So I'll try and break it down so that it makes sense. A medical technologist is a medical professional who analyzes body fluids and tissue to assist clinicians or doctors to diagnose and treat patients. Medical technologists normally work in the lab under a pathologist. So we have a saying within our industry that without us, your doctor is just guessing.
I'll take that to my doctor's friends. I don't know how they're gonna receive that. But I mean, if you're saying these guys work at a lab, how do they differ to like biotechnologists and all these other guys who keep on being at the lab, or chemical engineers? And I mean, what is that thin line that gets to divide you and the biotechnologist?
Okay, with medical technologists, we are in a pathology lab. So our job is to analyze and diagnose and give diagnosis. So we analyze body fluids and tissue, and then we give a diagnosis. So it's a pathology lab, unlike your engineers who will be in a lab, or biotech, like you're saying, biotechnologist. But with us, we work in a medical pathology laboratories.
What is the meaning of pathology? I didn't get that deep with life science. I mean, just
Okay,
so that people
so
can
when
follow the
we
words
talk
that
of
we're going to be using a lot here in the chat.
pathology, is essentially disease. It's the study of disease. I specialize in what they call histopathological techniques, which in short we just call it histology. So histology it's also called histopathology. So we are studying human tissue in the diseased state. So we are studying human tissue which has diseases.
So then when we're talking about histopathology, then I'm assuming you're basing your studies based on some old diseases that are there. Can you guys discover new diseases that maybe were never seen before, or is there another group of you guys somewhere else that deals with that?
We don't really discover diseases because the diseases are already there. So what happens is that the doctor will send a sample to the lab while they are querying a particular disease. So our job is to confirm what they are already querying or give them the right diagnosis if what they were querying is not the right diagnosis. So we're not into the business of discovering disease. I think the older generation did enough to sort of discover and name these diseases. So what we do is just to confirm. Usually is to confirm what the doctor is already suspecting. Hence, we say without us, they're just guessing.
This statement will be repeated the whole chat, I believe. The doctors are just guessing. I'm going to name it The Doctors Are Just Guessing. Maybe before we even get to the depth of histopathology and stuff, right? I would like to maybe just get a little bit about you. Like, who is Ify and where are you born and bred? And how was your life like when you were just growing up as a young boy then?
I was born at Donald Fraser Hospital back in the days, 1986. I am a twin. Growing up, I was and still is closer to my younger brother. So people used to think that I was a twin with my younger brother, even though the twin is a twin sister. So I grew up in Chikudini. It's a village just outside of Thohoyandou. Grew up in a family of four. I'm the third born. I went to I did primary. I went to quite a few schools. So I did my grade 1 to grade 3 at a school found Hadumasi called Chiribo Primary School. Then I did my 4. Okay, it was standard 2. I did my standard 2 at Chikudini Primary School. Then I went to Chiruvi, where I did my standard 3 until standard 5. And then my high school, I went to Mbirui. I think it's Mbiri Senior High. So when I was at Mbiri, funny enough, it is a math and science school, but I used to struggle with my math and science. So one term I would pass maths and fail science, and then the next one I would fail science and pass math. But that started around grade 11. So that is one of the things that played a role in me finding myself in studying medical technology. Because when we were studying, when we were in high school, when we get to grade 12, when people are applying to these big universities to do engineering and medicine and all of that, I was thinking my math and my science is not that good. I loved biology. And then there was a time I came across an article, I think it was something on Discovery, the medical aid. They were talking about, I think it was an article on medical technologists saying that these people work together with doctors, they analyze blood and things like that. So I took interest in that, did some digging, some reading up, and then I sort of fell in love with the idea of studying biomedical technology. But then the challenge was that most of my friends when we were in grade 12, they didn't even know biomedical technology. Whenever the teachers will say, guys, when you choose your preferred careers, please choose something that you know that after studying you'll get a job. My friends, we used to sit at the back of the class, so my friends would be like biomed, and it becomes sort of a joke in class, and people would just laugh about it. So, but because I myself had done a little bit of reading up on that, it didn't really deter me. I I only applied, actually, I think I applied at 3 institutions, and biomed was just my first choice. So I got accepted. It was still called Peninsula Technicon, and then I think on our first year they were finalizing the merger with Cape Tech, and then it ended up becoming Cape Peninsula University of Technology. So that's where I did my National Diploma in Biomedical Technology.
You know what's interesting? I also had applied to CPUT, and the reason was because I just loved the name. It sounded different, it sounded bold, and it just sounded fun. Cape Peasants, like I've never had such a sophisticated name, and it was just something that I sort of found interest on. So maybe just to cut that story short, right? I've taken about 3 or 4 notes from what you told me already. I mean, you said you
Okay.
read an article on a Discovery website. I don't remember myself reading any article or newspaper when I was in like high school. How did you take such an initiative? Like, I mean, how do you take such an initiative at that age? I mean, did you just love reading, or maybe there was some sort of a good influence around you, and then maybe how can the people at that age now sort of take that to be a lesson?
Looking back at it now, I think it was quite a combination of things. One, I realized that I was good in biology and my math and science was not that good. So I realized that applying for what a lot of people in my class was going for, it might be a challenge for me to get admission for such courses. So I was looking at things that my biology can make it easier for me to get into.
Mm.
And but I can't really
Mm-hmm.
tell as to what made me to look up such articles. But I remember I came across that article and it sort of stuck with me. And I think it was early in the year, and then I just decided that I'm going to do biomedical technology, and then that was it. I didn't know much about it, and then I thought the rest I will find when I'm ill.
Along the way. Nice, nice.
Mm.
I really like that because it's more of a you are seeing that if you don't find a way here, you won't survive. When other kids are now going to school, you'll just be sitting because then the reason why didn't you go to school? Hey, my math and science is not good, and you get what I'm saying, and you didn't want to sort of fall into that. An interesting question for me would be how much Mark is struggling with maths? Like, at which mark would you say somebody who's struggling with maths should be at or is at? The reason why it's because I want to brew a very interesting conversation after that.
So, do you mean like what percentage? What percentage you are getting out of 100 will you classify as
Yes.
struggling with maths? Okay, that time at 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 the high school it was high grade or nothing. So we're doing maths in high grade. So the pass mark was 40. So I was getting 38, 37, somewhere there. So what will happen is I'll get, let's say, a 38 in maths and go get a 50 in science. And then the next time, maybe I get a 40 in science and a 42 in maths. And then when you look at it at the requirements for universities, they are looking for a D or a C, and I'm struggling to get an E. So that's where I realized that I was struggling but I think in the modern day pass mark, I was killing it with this 33% pass mark. Yeah, but at that
Yeah,
point in
I
time,
mean, the reason
the
why
struggle was real.
Yeah, you know, the reason why I'm bringing this up is because I think this is one of those topics that are less talked about, right? To say what are other opportunities that you can have out there if you are struggling with math and science. Sure, we would encourage people to be good with math and science, but you know, math and science will decide for you if you're good or not. You get it? So then, in the
Mm.
medical spaces, you're doing that research of yours, wherein you ended up finding medical technology. Do you maybe have a list of other 3 or 4 um, career path that maybe somebody who's listening who's in grade 12 right now who's saying I'm struggling with math and science as well, what else can I take a look at if I don't want to go into your histopathology career?
Before we go further, we must not forget that math
Mm-hmm.
and science is still needed for those career paths, but it is not as
Mm-hmm.
hectic as when you want to do your engineering or your medicine and stuff like that. And I think the other issue is
Mm-hmm.
that when we are in matric, a lot of us just want to go to university, and some people feel like going to other institutions that are not universities is downgrading of some sort. Because now I think with when that time how you pass will determine whether you go to university or University of Technology or your FETs and stuff like that. So instead of people forcing to go to universities, there are other career paths that you can follow. That doesn't have to be engineering, medicine, extra sciences. So with the one that I did, when you do biomedical technology, there are different paths that you can still choose within the qualification. So what normally happens is you do your back then it was a national diploma. A lot of institutions have now changed it to a BSc, but there are still institutions that are still doing a diploma, like your I think CUT in Bloemfontein is still doing a diploma. Val is still doing a diploma. So places like CPUT, it is now a BSc. So what they have just done is to incorporate the BTech year into it and just make it a BSc. Because what was happening was that a lot of us were not going back to do BTech. So we just do our diploma, pass the board exam, and then we we never set foot. Yes, because the reason for that was that the on the market side, the labs when they employ you, all they care about was the diploma and you passing the board exam. So they were saying that BTech doesn't add value to the market. So most people will think, why should I waste my time doing a BTech when it doesn't add value?
Why are you writing the board exam like you're doing the CA and all these other guys that just write board exams for? Because it's funny because like courses like computer science and until now we can literally just do a 2 weeks course. Of course, if you're fully logged in, you can just do a 2 weeks course and then you get hired by one of the big tech companies and you're in. So why does that whole board exam thing matter? Is it still relevant even today?
Yes, I think the setup of MedTech in South Africa, it's as a student you register with the Health Council, the HPCSA, as a student, and then when you are done with your diploma, you do an 18-month internship, and while you're doing your internship, you need to register with SMLTSA. It's a body that runs everything medical technology in the country. So they are the one that administer the board exam for the different subdivisions of medical technology. So you do your 3 years diploma, you do 18-month internship at your preferred field of specialization. Then you write your board exam for you when you pass the board exam, you get a certificate that you submit to the Health Council. Then you are now registered as a qualified medical technologist.
And then the medical technologist word is like an umbrella of these things like histopathology and any other things that sort of falls under medical technology, right? Okay. And then, so then now you've got this board exam and then things are doing well. Where do I work? I mean, it looks like the labs that you guys work in are nowhere to be found. At least I know people who are biotechnologists or who are food scientists and stuff. I know that they at least work at Tiger Brands, at Coca-Cola, at Aspen, and all those other things. Like, what are some of your labs as medical technologists that we can sort of relate to in South Africa?
These labs are closer to home than you think.
Okay.
Now, we've got the public sector and the private sector. So in South Africa, the public sector is catered for by NHLS, is the National Health Laboratory Services. So NHLS have got labs in every public hospital.
Okay.
So if we're talking about Venda, Elim Hospital has a lab, Chilizini has a lab, Donald Fraser has a lab. Like any public hospital, there is a lab. The only difference is that in most of these labs, there is the clinical side of medical technology. So there they normally deal with blood and body fluids. So if you go to Chilizini, for instance, you'll get an NHLS lab, deals with chemistry, hematology, and microbiology. So in biology, they will be diagnosing your TBs and things like that. In hematology, they do things like your full blood count. And then in your chemistry, they do a lot of blood tests, like your liver function tests and things like that.
Nice.
When then things like histology now, it's sort of a specialized field. where I'm guessing it's a sort of saving the resources. Most of the public facilities, it will be sort of centralized. Like all the histology work for Limpopo, for example, will be done in Polokwane, at Polokwane Provincial Hospital. So when I qualified, my first post-qualification job was at NHLS in Polokwane. So that's why I was saying that these labs are closer to home than you think. Like around Toyando there, I know that there is an unpack lab, there is Lancet, if I'm not mistaken, and there is another private lab. So there's quite, but most of them deals with clinical pathology. So if I always try and explain it this way, when you go to the doctor and they take a blood in a tube, that tube goes to the lab. That's where medical technology comes in. So you can go, and I think anyway you go, the doctor will take blood, so there should be a lab around in the vicinity, and most of the time it is a clinical pathology lab.
Do we have levels to these things to say there are some other people who are more qualified than others, and the others maybe are not allowed to work with blood, and they can only work with maybe things like urine or other fluids or bodily fluids and stuff like that? Do you have those things when it comes to your specializations?
No, the only thing that we have is okay in the lab setup. You have got medical technologists and you also have medical technicians. So the technicians, what normally happens is that they normally have grade 12, then they do an internship and write a board exam for technicians. So those ones normally work under supervision of a technologist. So a technologist will have a university qualification and the board exam. So even the board exams are different. And then as a
Okay.
technologist, you also work under a pathologist. Now, a pathologist is a doctor, a medical doctor who have even specialized further to do another 4 years of pathology. Then they are called pathologists.
Interesting. Interesting. Okay. Maybe just to move a bit away from these big words that you've been throwing here, I always think of it from a viewer point of view to say, hey, if I'm just hearing people saying clinical, what, pathology, hey, histrop, hey, I would probably just say next, right? You spoke about some of the congestion courses that people are doing out there that don't have jobs. I had a very same chat or similar chat with Billy about it to say people are just now taking courses. You'll hear that there is a sleeping course, and I'm like, okay, what is this person going to work to do, and what is the positive that they're gonna bring in the world? And I think for you, you spoke about things like the BSc in chemistry or just BSc in biology. Are you saying they are congested because they are just broad and jobs are actually looking for specialists? Or was there a specific reason why you said these are just congested courses?
I think maybe in their inception there was a market for that, but what you find lately is that a lot of people who go and do. I'll give an example of a, let's say, BSc in chemistry. You will find the people who are a bit fortunate are those ones who will end up being academics. So they will do the degree, and now maybe they will work at the same university, at the same department, now teaching the other people who are coming up. So uh, I can give you an example. When we were doing second year of biomedical technology, we got three guys who joined our class who were already having qualifications. I think one had a BSc, the other one even had a master's. But the thing that they had done, they were not getting anything. Now they ended up having to come and register for the diploma of the biomedical technology diploma. So luckily, some of the subjects they were credited, and then they started from second year instead of first year, even though there were some first year subjects that they had to take that were essential for the qualification. But you can imagine that you have done a 4 year degree. Now you have to go join a diploma from second year. And then the other challenge that I have seen is that when we get to the lab, so the minimum requirements in the lab is that they need a national diploma in biomedical technology and board exam. So you come there with a BSc, it's not recognized
And the
as
masters.
a minimum,
And the
and
masters.
a master's. Yes,
Masters.
it's not recognized in that part in this particular field as a minimum. So the best they can do for you if you're looking for a job is for you to get a position of a student technician, for you to write a board exam for technicians and then work as a lab technician. And mind you, the requirement for technician is metric.
So basically, they're equating you back to metric, even with your
Yeah,
masters. Because remember, before we go to masters, you have to do your degree, you have to do your honors, and then you do your masters. Many of the people
yes,
never even reach to masters. So you probably
yes,
spend about 9 years or so, or 8, what, 7, 8? Yeah, because 4 years degree, 1 year masters, 1 year honors, and then 2 years masters. Oh, that's like 7 years. And then now
yes.
you're just being equated to somebody who didn't even come to university.
Yeah, so that's the issue that we come across. And then you find people feeling that they are hard done by because now you have got an honors or a master's or you have got a degree. And then you look at it that somebody who only has a diploma is above you. Because when it comes to the lab, a technologist is higher than a technician. It doesn't matter whether you have your postgrad. And then when you come to the lab, so let's say you are a technician in the lab who has been working for 5 years and I come in there as a newly qualified technologist. By the fact that I'm a technologist, I am above you when it comes to the hierarchy in the lab. So sometimes they end up with that animosity between people because people will feel like I've got a BSc and you've got a diploma, but
Makes no
the
sense, yeah.
requirements of the industry is like that. So if somebody has done a BSc in chemistry, even though there is a chemistry department in medical technology, that BSc in chemistry does not apply there because now this is a pathology chemistry, which you should
Not
have
just the
done.
general chemistry.
Yes, and you should have done what clinical pathology, which you would do clin path 1, 2, and 3. So hence I'm saying that when you do this BSc, you end up being no, so you don't fall under medical or whatever. So a lot of people end up going into research, or like I said, end up being academics.
So then, since we can't blame the university because the university is just a business, who do we blame? Do we blame the people who are enrolling for these courses? Or the academics or the academias who now are doing their PhD because they don't have any other choice, but they're still not telling their first years that, hey guys, I get it, you're doing chemistry, but maybe don't really major in it. Have it as a one of the subjects you have, and then also kind of do other things just so that you can accumulate a skill towards something that is tangible in the world. Who do we blame there? Is it just lack of knowledge? Is it just people's ignorance? Or is it just people not even planning what they're going to be? They just say, we'll see. The degree is a degree.
I think with that, there's quite a few people who need to take the blame. But I think the biggest blame will have to sit with you as a student who end up choosing such degrees. But again, it's not entirely on them because I think first of all, career guidance is not being done properly. I think the way career guidance needs to be done needs to change. So I think instead of let's say for example, because what normally happens is that in high school they'll take students with a bus and take them to university, and the university will take them through all these different streams of study. So I think the best way to do it is people who have studied such things should be the ones to come and address
Goes back.
the student, the grade 12 students, and then when they're interested, then you can now look into where do I study for such. Because, like you said, university is a business, and even when I think a lot of things these days come with a disclaimer in the beginning. So maybe even when students enroll, I don't know if universities will prefer doing that, but you can first day or maybe even orientation week, like guys, you are enrolled into this particular degree, but know that these are the challenges when you are done with because I don't think that there is quite a few of them that most of them they end up taking jobs that they didn't study for, or you come to a point where those jobs that does not need now any qualifications, they end up being taken by people who have got qualifications, and those who don't go to school now will end up finding it very difficult to get a job. Because I'm sure even if you go into retail, a lot of people who are in retail are way qualified than most of us. And I think at
100%.
the end of the day, it creates a cycle that is I don't know how can we break it, because now the parent who had sacrificed a lot of things to take this kid to school, now they sit there and look at this kid who has been wasting their money for 4 years and now they can't find a job. So because now for the parents, they think you wasted their money. So I think a lot of things need to change the way we do things. Career guidance, universities, like you said, they're not gonna tell us that, okay, I don't think
They just want you to enroll. They want the
yeah, and
money.
so they won't abolish those degrees. And sometimes at that pressure where people feel like I just need to go to university and study something, end up studying for things that will not help them in the future. And like you were saying that there are some industries where even a certificate, if you get a certificate, you can still go and be employed by the biggest companies out there. So I think maybe sometimes some of the things we need to do them from the end going back. Somebody must say, okay, I need to be a doctor specializing in this. And then there you find out, okay, for you to be this kind of a doctor, what do you need
Mm,
to study? Or
mm.
if you want to go into, now everywhere you go is AI, artificial intelligence and stuff. So if you want to go to venture into that, how do I go about? Maybe that you don't even need to go to university and go do a whole 4-year degree. You can just do a certificate and things like that. So, but I think it is, I don't know, it's somehow embedded within us as the black people that a university degree it's a must. So
It's
you
a
can't find
thing.
a job. Yeah. So you need to get a degree.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe just again we're gonna make a disclaimer. We're not saying the university degree is not important, because the two gentlemen who are busy sitting here has that qualification, right? But we are just saying that the way it's sort of put and the way many people just see it, they end up just going to study a sleeping course. I mean, for me, I mean, you can come in and judge me, but I don't understand what you'll be doing in sleeping courses. I mean, for me, that's something else, right? And there was something you mentioned along the statements here. You said there are some other courses wherein you can get a certificate and then just go and work with that certificate. I just want to sort of elaborate a bit on that. And it's not just only the certificate, it's the knowledge and the certificate that you're going to get there. Sometimes even the certificate doesn't matter. There is these things that these days, like Udemy, like Coursera, these online things that you can go and learn. You can go out there and then just study, maybe using your friend account, and you just get the knowledge, and then you go and then apply yourself in whatever field that there is there. So maybe just to close that the course war there that was there. I'll come with a scenario, ne? I know somebody who did a BSc in biology, and they told me that they want to use that as a bridging course to be able to do medicine. How well does that work? I know you didn't do medicine, but you can sort of tell me a thing or two in the medical space there. I mean, would you advise somebody to do that, and why? But yeah.
I think it will not be wise when you know from the. I don't know if that person you're talking about knew from the beginning that that BSc won't be of value when they're done, because I don't think it will be wise to go through with the BSc in biology and then later on decides now you want to turn into medicine, because you might
Sure.
find that the subject that you did for that BSc, none of them might even be, you won't even get accredited for them when you go into medicine. So maybe it goes back to what we said earlier on, to say maybe we need to do this career guidance thing from the end, going back to the beginning, to say if this person wants to do medicine, maybe sometimes it depends that you want to do medicine, but then maybe your marks don't allow you to do medicine. So if you had gone to maybe somebody who's doing medicine or to the university and said, okay, I want to do medicine, but my marks are like this. There might be extended programs that you can undertake. That maybe just be an extra year instead of going the whole 4 years and then having to start all over again. Okay, there was one guy in our class. He graduated cum laude for biomed, but he felt that no, he wants to do something, I guess, more challenging. Then he enrolled for medicine.
Okay.
He was already a qualified. He already had this diploma in the medical technology. It's just that when he was in the lab, he felt like no, this is not for him. Then he went to go do medicine. So sometimes instead of going and doing a whole qualification, thinking that you're going to use it as a bridging course, it's better to find out if there is an extended program for what you really want to study. Then you can only add an extra year to the duration of the qualification instead of wasting more.
I'm super interested on the work you did setting up the private lab and stuff like that. So we're gonna jump into that. I have a very good questions around the. I mean, was it the first one you sort of did, and how did it feel like? Can you tell us maybe a little bit about that process? If I know you guys can't disclose everything, so if you have to sort of not disclose some of the things, it's okay. But whatever you can disclose, you can, please.
Like I said, when I qualified, when I passed my board exam, that was 2009. So my first job was at NHLS, which is a public laboratory in SA. That's where I worked. I started working in nine. So I left that and I went to private. I went to a lab in Rustenburg called unpack. So I'm just mentioning those names so that you can understand that there is quite a vast number of labs that one can go to. So I left. Then I left Ampef and I went back to NHLS in Bloemfontein. So due to some work politics, I felt like I needed to leave where I was in Bloemfontein, because sometimes when you are with the environment you are in, so sometimes it might even lead you to disliking what you are doing, and then at that point you know that you need a change of scenery. Then what happened was I had a friend who we did the internship at the same lab during our student days. So when I was starting my internship, he was about to write his board exam. So he qualified and he went to a different lab, but we kept in touch. And then he ended up being in Namibia at the public laboratory of which is called NIP, the Namibian Institute of Pathology. So when he was there, one of the pathologists, they decided that they wanted to open their own private lab specializing in histology. Now, because there is a big shortage of histotechnologists, whether in South Africa or anywhere else in the world, or let's say in SADC, she just asked, do you know anyone who is a qualified technologist? And then he just said, oh, I've got a friend who did histology. So the pathologist gave me a call and said, I want to open a lab. Are you interested? Then the discussion went to, if the numbers are right, then we can talk. Mind you, there was no interview, no nothing. Just a matter of, okay, fine, send through your CV, send your qualification. Then I had to register with the Health Council in Namibia. So all you need to do there, you just get a certificate of good standing with the HPCSA, and then you bring in the
Yes.
site, and then you get registered.
Nice.
And so this was the first time I was sort of on a supervisor management kind of a role. Because most of the labs that you go to, you find that the lab has been running for years, so everything is already there. So here I had to apply all the knowledge that I had, and the nice thing was that I was doing things my way. So at the beginning, it was challenging, but I think at that time I needed a challenge. So, because what happens is that most of the time you sit in one place and this thing just becomes second nature. You sort of it goes to muscle memory. You can do most of these things with your eyes closed. So now when you have to set it up, challenge yourself a bit. So there's some things that you need to go back and read up some stuff, and then you need to make some few calls to say, hey, I need to do this and this. How do I do this again? Because the other challenge is that when you are qualified, you might find that you can go to a lab that does not do everything that is done within the discipline. So maybe they don't have other specialized tests that you do. So now some of those things you might forget over time. So you need to refresh. So when I have to set up this site, there was a lot of reading that I had to do, a lot of trial and error, and then like I said, most of the things I was doing my way. I won't say I've been a troublesome technologist. In most labs that I worked at, so there will be a clash with, management and things like that. So here I ended up doing things my way.
Anyone who would tell you that it's not like I was so troublesome and stuff like that, it's just know that they were. There's no way somebody would want to justify themselves on something that they were not doing at all. So it's fine. I got it. Let's move on. I mean, what was the biggest challenge that you came across as you were doing this lab? I mean, I've heard that you guys don't just put certain things next to each other. Let's just say, for example, you work with chemicals that needs to react with blood or whatever stuff like that. I know I heard that you don't really put them next to each other. There are some other sort of sections meant for these types of things and stuff like that. How did you go about that? And maybe have you ever been in trouble for doing it wrong or right when you were setting up your own that private lab?
The biggest challenge, like you're saying, was figuring out how this thing should come together. Because most of the time, you come to a place that is already set up. So the biggest challenge here was mostly acquisitions of reagents of things that we need to use, because in this part of the country as it is, most of the things are still being acquired from. So when you need things, you need to inquire from companies that are in South Africa, and then they tell you that no, you need to go through the local distributors. So now you need to come this side now and find out who is the local distributor. When you find the person or the company, there's still a lot of issues with importing the stuff. So a lot of things were getting delayed. It wasn't like now even the contracts that I might have had that were in SA, even if you call them, it's not like going to your
Easy.
neighbor and say quickly, can I borrow this? Even if they have to borrow you something, it needs to come through the proper channels. So that was quite a bit of a challenge. It is, some of the things are still a bit of a challenge even today, because most of the things that we use in the lab, we need to get them
From South Africa.
from SA.
To say today I have some little money in my pocket and I would like to set up a lab. What will it take me to set up my own lab when it comes to money, to the talent, and as well as maybe any other license requirements?
Okay. You are allowed to set up a lab. It will depend on which lab, which department do you want to set up. So first of all, as a medical technologist, you need to have worked at least 2 years post board exam. So that is the requirement of the health council. So you need to have worked two years post, after you pass your board exam, you work for 2 years. Then you can open up your own laboratory. Then I'm guessing you need to go through all the procedures of registering a business. So I think the health council, I'm sure they will have a guideline on what you need to, criteria you need to meet for you to have that kind of a setup. Then if you are like myself, you are specializing in histopathological techniques or in histology, it becomes a bit tricky because you need a pathologist. So maybe let me give a quick background. In clinical, where you run your blood samples and your other body fluids, a technologist can give out a report. If I'm a technologist who is qualified in so there's what they call clinical pathology, which entails chemistry, hematology, and microbiology. So people who could do a board exam in that, they do all three. So they can run all these three departments, which is the common ones. So like I said in the beginning, when you go to Chilizini, NHS, you'll find all those three. If you go to Ampeth, by NHC, you'll find all those three. So those people, if you want to open a lab, if you have worked for 2 years, you can just set everything up and then you start running when you get all the certification that you need and all the licenses. So the money is mostly in your chemistry and hematology. So that's what a lot of people do. So you can have a few doctors who will take blood and send to you. I think I'm not sure if it's the health council that they determine prices that need to be charged. So, but like any industry, even without mentioning names, there's always the big guys who gets
Who
together
controls?
and do some price fixing, like what happened with COVID. I remember
Yeah.
in the beginning the COVID prices were a bit high because the big guys said and then said no, let's set it at this level. But it does get regulated, so you follow that, and then if you have got your doctors who support you, then you are good to go. But the challenge is that is unlike most businesses where the money will be coming in every day, in the majority it's medical aid, so you have to claim through the medical aid. So there are quite some because okay, I will give reference to Toyando because me and you, where we come from, Toyando is our town. So there is
Yes.
a lab, I think it's called Capricorn. So I'm not too sure the full name, but it's Capricorn. It's there next to Town Hall. There's a lab. There's a lab there. I think the owner of the lab. I used to work with him in Polokwane at NHLS. Now he has his own lab there. So there are people who have went and opened their own labs. So with histology, as a technologist, it will be a bit difficult for you to have a lab of your own because you need a pathologist. So it will have to be in collaboration with a pathologist. Those guys don't come cheap. So in histology, the work that we do is usually to prepare the things for the pathologist to make the diagnosis.
Oh yeah.
So
So it's like you sort of
it's mostly,
compliment those guys and they
yeah.
compliment you by sort of interpreting the result.
Yeah, because now they can't look at because what we normally do is the whole process. If I have to give you the rundown of how histology works, so we get
Mm.
a piece of tissue, and then at the
Mm.
end of the day, we have that piece of tissue on a glass slide for the pathologist to look at and to give the diagnosis.
Mm.
So the technologies, all of that. So that's where you do your cutting, your staining. So some of the things won't make sense that I'm saying.
You cut a
That
tissue, but isn't it like very small?
yes, you get a tissue, like you can even get something that is like 3 millimeters. So from that, after processing and everything, the pathologist, yeah, very
Three
tiny, tiny,
millimeters.
tiny, tiny.
By the way, I think maybe just for clarity, we're not talking about the normal tissues in toilet paper. It's a
No, no,
tissue
no, I'm talking about
from the
human
body.
tissue. Yes.
Human tissue.
If we have to put it in layman's terms, human meat.
I mean, those things they look like they're very expensive to set up in terms of money. Will I be talking something somewhere in the millions, in 2 millions, in 10 millions, in 15 millions? I mean, just for a simple lab.
The trick is in starting small. With the evolution in technology, newer machines are always coming up, and the new machines always cost more. But the good thing about it is that even the older machines, they still work and still give the same similar results. The new one might just be quicker. So when you're starting up, you can even go to bigger labs and get their older machines. So you can get the older machines and you still use run the similar same tests as you go. When the business is booming, then you can get the more recent machines. When it's in the side of clinical, so whenever we talk of clinical, you're talking about your chemistry, hematology, and microbiology. You can always use old machines. Yeah, then your 500,000 will be enough for you to start up. When you go for the new advanced machines, those ones they go in millions. But then
Nice.
some of these manufacturers, they lease out the machines to you as a lab. But you need to have proved yourself. So you can't just be a starting lab and they list to you. Maybe when you are starting, you might have to buy. So as time goes on, you won't have to buy it. They list it, but they should be the ones to service the machines and you get the reagents from them. But the machine itself, they list it.
Okay.
But for
Nice.
you to
Okay,
get the
so
lease, you need to have been around for some time. You can't just start by a lease.
leasing. But isn't it the point where you need the leasing of the machine during the startup stage? Because then you don't have all these millions ready in the bank. You see, so it's quite an inverse of what the real world sort of needs there. Maybe just move to the last. Not this is not the last question. There's still the last section of the questions to say, I've heard that some of the seniors in your industries or related industries push these juniors or young guys to use the laminar floors and all those other potentially cancer-causing machines or rays and stuff like that. Do you have stuff like those in your field? Have you ever seen such? Is that true? Is that false?
Maybe before I even answer, there was a meme that I once saw where they are saying that the chemicals in a lab just sitting on the shelf looking at you. And when you are busy there in the lab, the chemicals are looking at you like this one doesn't know. Because most of the things that we use in the lab, they are dangerous and they are some of them are carcinogens, meaning that they do cause, but they are measures in place for you not to get to be exposed to those things.
So you guys as seniors, you don't push the young
But
ones to use them?
no, in actual
No.
sense, we always teach the young ones to follow the proper procedures. It is a matter of don't do what I do what I tell you. Because as you become a senior, some of these safety things kind of flies out through the window because you kind of know what you're doing. Because you can walk into a lab and you find people going around without gloves and things like that. But
Which is obviously not recommended. Yeah, I see.
yes, but with the juniors, we always teach them to follow the proper rules. With me, I always say if the only time you can cut corners is if you know how to, if you know the legit way of doing things, and your own way does not mess with the final product. So if you can still get the same
100%.
quality results with another method, you can go ahead. But if you cut corners and you can't get the same results, then it doesn't make any sense to go
Something
that
else.
route. Yes.
Nice. So yeah, I have this very interesting tradition on this chat wherein I prepare sort of 3 questions just to close it out. And these ones are
Okay.
just those where you just need to sharpshoot. And then obviously after the last question, you can just close it out however you want to close it out. Right. So you mentioned something around child psychology. Is there any event in your life maybe that you sort of sparked this out, or where did the motivation come
I wouldn't say there's an event, or maybe I might not be thinking about it as an event, but growing up, I kind of realized that I get along well with kids, and then sometimes you think along the lines of what are the things that you enjoy. You look at how you relate to certain things, and that can influence what kind of a career path you choose. So child psychology has been one of those things that has always been at the back of my mind, but I think I didn't really push myself to pursue that. But the one thing that I can deduct from that is that me getting along with kids, that's one thing that's led me to like maybe child psychology might be one of those things that one can pursue.
Yeah. Maybe after you studied child psychology, you're gonna be one of those in the congested courses, and you just sit there without a
True
job
that.
in Toyando, because I'm pretty sure in Toyando, where we come from, if you are a troublesome kid or something like that, they don't think of taking you to a psychologist. They beat you out until you you become a normal child. The second one, right? Have you ever done a post-mortem, or does your qualification prohibit that? I mean, have you ever done tests on samples that They were telling you that this is from a deceased person or deceased being. And I mean, is it different?
Yes, once you are a medical technologist doing histology, you can do postmortem. So the
Okay.
source of our samples, they normally say is a biopsy. So biopsy, it means that is coming from a living source. So that means that is from a person who is in theater or who has been operated that you are trying to diagnose and manage. And then you have got autopsy, which is postmortem, when you're trying to get the cause of death. So when you work in a lab that is part of a big hospital, or maybe attached to a university, because that is the setup in South Africa. Your hospitals like your vets, no, I mean the university like vets is attached to Charlotte Maxeke. Then you've got Groote Schuur attached to UCT, Stellenbosch, it's Tygerberg. So the anatomical pathology department is attached to the school and the lab. So they do postmortems. And I have done currently where I am. We do postmortem cases. So, but here they come already in containers. In other labs, you will have to go to the mortuary with the pathologist and do the actual postmortem.
I'd end in my resignation first.
I myself had been in a situation where I had to go to the mortuary when they were doing the postmortem. There was one incident where I had to help the other person to put the body on the table. But yeah, people say that people who work in histology are normally, not fine because of the things that we we deal with.
Okay, thank you very much for sharing that.
I don't know if this will now be oversharing. There is an incident
Go for
that
it.
I always like to share. When I was a student, I did my internship at Red Cross Children's Hospital. They were doing this study where the every still birth that was, I think there was a maternity hospital around. So whenever a child is born dead, they still birth. So they will have to do a postmortem. So one day the mortician was not around. When the guys came to deliver the body, I just got a call to say, guys, we need the key to the mortuary. I thought, "Oh, I'm just gonna give the key and the guys will do what they do." So when I get there, the guys were like, "No, as what we do, we deliver. You guys, you do the rest." What they used to do, they will put the body in a body bag and then put it in a normal card box. So the guy just gave me
Okay.
the box. I'm standing there. I need to take this long walk to the mortuary, go open up, go write it in the book, go open the fridge, move the other ones, and put this one, the new one, in there. And then you won't believe. After that, I close up and I went to have tea. It was tea time. Life continued. So some of these things you get used to it. You might be talking about doing postmortem, and to some of us, that is just like normal things. So yes, as a medical technologist, you can do both diagnostic and postmortem. So some of them, there are people who did histology who works at the forensic department. So it's more or less the same thing.
Maybe that's the reason why I never went to medicine, because I realized that the moment you are a specialist, or at some case, you probably need to deal with some other things that, for me, I don't think I can really stand them. But yeah, thank you very much for sharing that. And then the last one. I mean, we mentioned a little bit about AI, right? Have you ever thought of how AI could enhance medical technology in general? Is it even being used? I mean, are you guys there? Are you not? And what are some of the use cases, if you could share? AI, yes.
AI is I think we can run away from AI. Already it's already in use in medical technology. I attended a congress 2 years back in Joburg, and they were discussing the effects of AI in medical technology, and to also say that we need to embrace it because we can't run away from it. Some of the instances where there are labs that are fully automated. So you walk into a lab, you don't find a person. So, but those are in more tertiary institutions, like kind of your big labs. So somebody will be registering the sample and the test, and then just put it into into a conveyor belt, and then it will be sent to the department, and then the machine will run everything, and then results will go out. It will file the sample. If you need more tests afterwards, you can just put into the system. It will go and locate the sample, take it and go run whatever that needs to be run. But that even as an industry, we have come a long way, because back in the days, let's say current time, when you need to do, if you want to check your liver, how your liver is, there's something called the liver function test. So there's some certain enzymes that they run on the blood to check how the liver is functioning. So you just put the tube in the machine. The machine will aspirate some blood, and then it will run the test. Back then, what they used to do is you got a spectrophotometer. You will measure the wavelength of whatever, and then you do some calculations. That's how you will get to the value of
answer.
whatever you are trying to test for. But now the machine will just tell you how much it is, instead of calculating everything, having it to use the spectrophotometer and calculate the wavelength. So AI is there in medical technology, and it's getting advanced each time. Because now, instead of hiring 20 people, you hire two, and then let the machines do the rest. But in some of the departments, like in histology, you still need a human touch. So it will take time before AI takes over, like in a large scale. But slowly but surely, it's being incorporated into medical technology.
If you have anything to sort of say in closure or anything, like now is the time, please. You can go for it.
So one thing that I would like to say is that medical technology is here, is there to stay. And I will always say that people will always be sick. So not that we rejoice in people being sick, but the fact that people will always be sick, it means that there will always be a market. And the field is there. It is there to be explored. And I think now most of the people who are pursuing this are Black students, which is a good thing, because it used to be predominantly, white. Even though some of these things we can't shy away from the politics side of it, but it's one of those things that I will advise people to pursue. And even though people are pursuing biomedical technology, a lot of people end up qualifying in clinical, which is your chemistry, hematology, and microbiology, and it leaves histology with a few people. So there's histology, there's cytology. So in histology, we deal with human tissue, and then you've got cytology, where they deal with cells. So so the example that I can give is ladies normally go for pap smears. So when a pap smear is done, a technologist who is doing cytology is the one who looks at the slide and then give the diagnosis. So as a cytology technologist, you can give a diagnosis, and you can even open your own lab if you want. So there is a lot of options within the field of medical technology that still needs to be explored. So it is there for the taking. I remember when we wrote our board exam, we were 10 in the whole of SA, and then only 4 passed. So the board exam sometimes it kind of I won't say it's difficult. If you really put your mind to it, it can be done, and the market is there to be explored. And I think I would personally like to see a lot of these youngsters pursuing the field. What I would also like to say is that let's do this career guidance thing differently. Then that will save a lot of our future generations, because you wouldn't want a problem that was there 5 years ago, of people doing uh, courses that doesn't have any future, and then you find that even in 2025, the child who's enrolling in such, the universities, like you said, they are there for the business. They won't discontinue such things, but it is up to us to do it things differently. But I think even a platform like yours, it will be very enlightening to the kids, to say, okay, when I want to do this, how do I go about researching a particular field of interest? Because sometimes you might find that the field you're interested in is one of those dormant professions, and then when somebody explains to you how it is, then you still have time to go and look as to what are your other interests, and then you choose another field of study, instead of going going and wasting away your years at the university.
100%. This platform 100 is it's made for that. And I think I was telling Ron the other time, I was like, where it's gonna get to it's that we do this career tours, and I think there's like 23,000, is it 23,000 schools in South Africa? I don't know. I think there was a number that I sort of have picked up some other time, unless there was some confusing the stats. Way in one way or the other, there needs to be this done in numbers and at large scale, because you ask yourself, what are these kids being exposed to in terms of career opportunities, and then the things that they can get to see and learn out there. And this platform, obviously with the help of YouTube and other streaming platforms, will sort of help that. And then where we can, we'll even go in person and then just make sure that we preach the right career advices. Otherwise, I would like to just close this one with the bang. The storyline for me was quite simple. It's a kid who used to struggle with maths and science, but now is one of the elites in the histopathological techniques as a medical technologist. You know, those words, at least now I got a very big word to flex with. Yeah, I really love your story, EP, and I really appreciate that you got to share with us here and a lot of information and a lot of knowledge around this course that is basically not really known much, but it's quite useful and it's quite playing a very huge role in the market. And I thank you very much.
Thank you for having me. You know that once I start talking about biomed, I don't finish. So this is one of those things that I'm thinking, where have you been all along? So thank you very much
Nice.
for
Nice.
having me.